my swim time. Gonna bust up your behind. This is my swim time. Gonna mess up your whole mind. This is my swim time. Gonna bust up your behind. This is my swim time. Gonna mess up your whole mind.
Welcome to Work the Left Side. We are hyper hyped to announce tonight's guest. We are back in the house that Pursuit built. I am joined by Callum Andrews. How are we doing, dude? You good?
I'm very good, thank you. Yourself?
Yeah, mate, 5 by 5. Too blessed to be stressed. So everything is good. Obviously, firstly, thanks for coming on. Thanks for chatting.
Thank you for having me.
Dude, not a problem. You know me. Well, anybody who's watching this knows me, knows I'll always love to get people on from Pursuits, just because I think it's just such a wide variety of people, you know, in that house. And there's always stories to be told. I'm always interested to kind of know how people got there and where they're going to go next, and you know what the plan is. So yes, you are another one of my Pursuit guests. So I have plenty to pick your brain about.
Fire away.
We'll get to the generic stuff obviously in a bit. I just want to bring up, because I was watching it today on, obviously I visited your Instagram page, obviously, you know, I follow you anyway, so I kind of see stuff as of when it pops up.
Yeah.
I'm really shit for social, so I don't sit and scroll. So
Likewise, yeah.
I have to go on people's pages to actually find stuff. So obviously it was on yours earlier. Thought, I'm just a bit of a refresh, check it out. I saw your little promo video for the Ruggy Rumble
Yes.
in February. Dude, firstly, it was awesome, by the way. That was just
Thank you. Appreciate that.
It did the perfect, you know, it ticked all the boxes, did the job, got you introduced, showed them who you are, you know, their audience, their fans, and yeah, man, obviously I was like, okay, Ruggy Rumble, and then I had to click on site what promotion that was for, and that's way up north, dude. You're crossing the borders up into Scotland.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. It was one of my first. It's the first promo I've ever done recorded. So I've done obviously a couple in training sessions and whatnot, but this was the first time I'd actually done one in front of a camera. And it was at a training session in the middle of the session, so I had everybody watching as well. So it was quite nerve-wracking. But once you actually get into it, you really start to, you know, feel your rhythm and start to feel the moment, if you know what I mean. So,
I mean, anybody who hasn't seen it, obviously, you know, check, you know, Callum's Insta out, because that's the thing as well. You're not just stood there talking to the camera. You're doing stuff as well. You know, like you're throwing people over the top rope, like Rumble style. Obviously, that was the point of it. So it's kind of like, you know, you're working and cutting a promo at the same time, which, you know, I can't undersell. I can't even imagine how you just, you know, so many moving parts and just being like, right, let's do it.
Yeah, it's I wanted it to be something quite unique, because obviously with promos it's a lot of you get a lot of just staring at a camera, talking to the camera, and you know, you want something that grabs people's interest and something that's different. So obviously being Rumble themed, I thought, you know, training for a Rumble, going in as like PPW's guy, sending up north sort of thing. So it seemed appropriate to me. I was chatting with Liam about it, and Liam was giving me some advice. Seemed appropriate to do it at PPW as like a training, sort of like in the middle of a session, throwing people over, and it gelled really well. The idea came together really nicely, and I enjoyed doing it.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, if that's your first one, dude, that's a hell of a box to tick, and you know, that's setting the bar high. You know, I mean, I'd have been like, maybe I'd start lower just so you can kind of be like, right, I've got plenty of place to go. Like you set the bar up here now, so you're going to be like,
yeah,
I've got to top that next time.
That's the issue.
Dude, like I said, it was awesome. Kudos to you for that. Because, and the first person I remember sort of seeing you throw out is either Alfie or Skylar, I want to say. I think it was Alfie, wasn't it? You threw out first?
Yeah, Alfie, I threw out first.
Poor Alfie. So, again, you know, looking at your page, just, you know, the people you get to work with. Obviously, we had Mr. Radu Bulat on Monday talking about death matches and all this kind of sort of stuff. And I said you were coming on, and he mentioned you guys had tagged against Hustle.
We had, yeah, we one of the PPW shows. So the I think we did a Hustle invasion beforehand where we went down and did a couple matches for them, and then they came up to us and sort of invaded our show and jumped in. So we were like, cool. And then Liam put me and Radu together against two of their guys, and we ended up winning that match, which was really nice. So it was quite a unusual pairing, me and Radu together. I've obviously worked and trained with Radu before, but yeah, it's quite an unusual mix of styles. So it was really nice to, get in and tag with somebody that's sort of out of my comfort zone, because I was still, I think it was like my third match that I'd done. So it was nice to get out of my comfort zone of people that I don't work with all the time. And yeah, really enjoyed that match.
That's cool as well, though, for them to put you in a position like that, because obviously, they're going to want to showcase what Pursuit does, when somebody's coming up, to see, like, from another school or from another promotion. That's put a lot of trust in you, to have that match in this place.
I appreciate the faith that they have in me. Considering I've been training for just, I'd say, about 14, 15 months. To say that I started, like, my first match was in April of last year, to then be, set to represent PPW in that Hustle match, and then for them to ask me to go up to Scotland to be part of the Ruggy Rumble to sort of represent them again. It's quite what's the word? It's very nice. It's a good feeling just to feel like you're appreciated for what you do, sort of the effort you put in.
Oh, it's like you say, it's a pat on the back. It's an honor. It's a sign of accomplishment. It's acknowledgement of how well you're doing. It's one of many things. You can look at it in a lot of ways, and a lot of positives. So yeah, dude, whatever you're doing, keep doing it, because obviously you're smashing it.
Thank you.
That's all right. Right. So we talked about Pursuit. Obviously, you have just kind of brought it up with the Ruggy Rumble and the Hustle and stuff. Let's do the generic stuff. Obviously, I don't know if Pursuit was your first school, if you went somewhere else, and then you've kind of been around a little bit. I know some people have tried out different schools. Some people just went to Pursuit first and obviously just stayed there. What made you want to be a wrestler? What made you take those initial first steps?
So it's quite a unique story that I like to tell. So obviously the cliches, I love wrestling as a kid, and I always watched it and wanted to be a pro wrestler as a kid, and never sort of followed my dreams. And I work in a warehouse, and I have, like, quite a few close friends that I work there with. And one of them, Sebastian, really nice guy. It doesn't work there anymore, but I was quite fed up one day, and I was, sort of thinking about moving on and going somewhere else. And I said to him, I'm like, I don't really know what to do with myself. And he said, well, if you could quit your job and do anything for the rest of your life, what would you do? And I said, well, you'll laugh, but I want to be a pro wrestler. So I've always wanted to since I was a kid. And he said, well, what are you doing to become a pro wrestler? And I looked at him, I was like, well, nothing, I've never even thought about it, It's one of those things it's a dream you put to one side, sort of thing. So he said, well, go find a school, wherever you train, whatever you do, go do that. And it sort of opened my eyes as why don't I just take control of my life a little bit? Because I'd sort of just been drifting, if you will. I had my job, I've made quite a successful life for myself. But I've always had that little bit missing. And then when he mentioned about why don't you just go and do it, it was almost like a kick up the butt, saying, like, yeah, just go and do it. So I went on the internet, I had a look through. I found Pursuit was like my closest training school, and it was like the top recommended. So I messaged Liam and Nathan. I said, do you mind if I just pop down and see what you do and how you run things, and just get a vibe for the sort of facility? And that was in, I'd say, August of 2023. And I've never looked back since. It's, I went down, everyone was so polite. You go in, everybody gives you a handshake. They talk to you, make you feel really at home. And that was something that I really loved, because I was really nervous going into the building. And then since then. I haven't really trained anywhere else. It's just there's so much to offer at Pursuit, where you've got all your different session takeovers where people come in. You get experience from all across, the UK and even the world, like people who are training in Japan coming over, and it's awesome. You can't beat it.
That's it. I'm not going to argue that. Obviously, I always keep an eye on what's going on. I know recently, they announced the Joseph Connors one. I think that's in a few weeks.
Yes.
The most recent one, obviously, was the Spike Trevay. I don't know did you manage to get to that one? Did you?
It was a very, very interesting session.
Obviously, I've tried to go to like Tidal and stuff, and obviously only seen him on like Progress and stuff like that, on YouTube. Yeah. We're closely associated with Tidal, so I get to see, Spike do his thing at Tidal, being champ and stuff, and I can only imagine that sort of session just being just like so much knowledge to impart kind of thing. Because the thing is as well though, when you hear him talk, you just kind of like, the dude's so well spoken but so softly spoken, but you just kind of, you find yourself being pulled into what he's saying. It's like, oh dude.
Yeah, that session for me was a real good session, because everybody brings their own little bit to the session. So everybody's got their own little sort of nuance that they like to bring to every takeover. And Spike was a lot of character, so deep dives into character. And when you meet him, and you've watched him wrestle, but then you meet him as a person, it's like a completely different person. He's such a lovely guy. And then when he gets in the ring and he starts to show you what he means when he's training, he just becomes a completely different person, and like a vicious side comes out, and it's brilliant to watch.
I can only imagine. But that's the thing, though, because obviously, character comes up a lot when I'm talking to people, from Pursuit, or just a lot of people in general now, because I've said it 100 times. Obviously, characters are coming back into wrestling. They're becoming more and more of an embodiment. They're more important now than they probably were 5 or 6 years ago. There weren't many characters. They were just people or exaggerations of people, whereas now it's like, I'm an actual character, and you just got to look at the doors, look at who's coming out of Pursuit, and like we mentioned, obviously Radu beforehand, we've got the Deathmatch Vampire, you got the Freak Show there, Scott, this is character Hardman Dan holding this craft now, there, it's crazy, but that seems to be as important as just the actual wrestling side of it as well. It's all become one.
Yeah, absolutely. I think character's probably more important than the actual in-ring work, because at the end of the day, for in your wrestling shows, people come to watch you wrestle, but they're not there to watch the moves. They're there to watch everything. And there's people that will turn up to a wrestling show. Like a good example is Freak Show. People will turn up to a wrestling show just to watch Freak Show perform and be themselves. And I do the same. I love watching Freak Show. They're awesome. So character can often be more important than the actual in-ring work.
That being said, though, you are freaking a very technical. You've got. I've watched some of your matches now. With the in-house shows, obviously at Pursuit and stuff. And dude, you're technically like awesome. What I mean? You just kind of like, you've got the holes. You smooth the transitions. It's just. It looks. I know it's obviously it's not. You work really hard, but you kind of make it look easy. That's the best compliment.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
But you've got the character as well, so it's not like you've just focused purely on the character. You've worked and developed this technical side really, really well. But then, you've kind of got this character. Obviously the graphic will be you sat on the speaker with the guitar. Is that an exaggeration of you? Are you musically, are you kind of lean towards music, a lover of music, or is it just something where you can be like, right, this isn't me, so I get to be able to have some sort of escapism?
Yeah, so when it came to figuring out character and whatnot, I was at a roadblock for quite a while, and I couldn't, because to myself, I'm quite a boring person. There's not much that I do. Obviously, there is things about me as a person that you can pull a character from, but looking on myself, I didn't have anything. And I play guitar. I'm not very well, but I do play guitar, and I love music. So to me, it was, I think we were down at a session one night training. A Music Man brought a guitar down. We love Music Man. We absolutely love Music Man. He brought a guitar down, and I just, because I play left-handed, I picked up his guitar upside down and started messing around. And he was like, "Oh, you're actually quite good with the guitar." I said, "Oh, thank you." So then it was sort of like, "Oh, I can see it with the long hair, the guitar. It's like a rock star." And I'm like, "Well, you know, a lot of my idols growing up were rock stars, and you know, my favorite musicians were sort of people I looked up to." So then that's when I started drawing from that, and that's when I came through with the rock star. So I'm not a big rock star. I can play guitar semi-competently, but to me, it's a way to express myself in ways that I wouldn't normally be able to do, and sort of let myself out in this sort of cool rock star kind of way, like pretending to be like what my idols were.
Which is, what a character is. And dude, that is still a hell of a lot better than Jeff Jarrett. At least you can play a little bit, play that sort of middle of the road kind of thing. I mean, I've never seen somebody carry a guitar out for so many years and never actually once play it. I know Jeff gets a lot of love now, but I'll never forgive the guy. He's just a massive fraud to me. I freaking hate Jeff Jarrett. He's just a massive con man.
Fair. Yeah, I could never smash my guitars up. I love them too much. They hold a lot of sentimental value. I don't know how he smash guitars up every week.
Just because he can't play them, so what's the point? Either that or it's firewood. It's one or the other. We're talking music then, so obviously, because when we're talking characters, I've had various people on, and they sort of say, when you're looking at developing a character, the first mistake some people make is they look at wrestling for inspiration. But then if you do that, you kind of run the risk of just being like a carbon copy of somebody else, or a tribute act to somebody else. Where some people, more people now have been like, right, we can kind of pull inspiration from films, we can pull inspiration from TV or music videos or bands, or just how certain things look. It's like our clock's Gunnar Rigg has got the 5-finger death punch handprint on his mask. I saw it, I was like, nice. And he's like, "Oh, you saw it?" I was like, "Yeah, that's awesome." But then I was talking like Isaac North, and was on about like tool videos or music videos, and just the creepiness, of this, that, and the other. It's just places to pull from. So I mean, obviously, I presume, I don't know, man. Do you watch music videos, or do you kind of just even the music itself? Are you pulling any sort of inspiration from there?
So a lot of my inspiration in terms of the look was sort of like with the shades and whatnot, was sort of like 80s style rock, which is is what I grew up on as a kid. I love it, so it's ingrained in my system. I love 80s rock, but a lot of the stuff was just things I had around, like the fleece that I come out with. It's a woman's fleece that I bought in Primark in Dublin that I saw, and I was like, I love that. That's really cool. And then it was sort of like when I was pulling things from my character, I was like, oh, this is unique. This is something different. So I just thought I'd try it. And it was a case of trial and error, just see what works, what doesn't work, and sort of pull it in. And eventually it's become what I am today.
You said, that's the thing, because I'm looking at you and I'm thinking, you said 80s rock there, which obviously, like the hair metal, the glam rock, the White Snake, and all that kind of sort of stuff. I was looking at you and I was like, I'd get the more grungy sort of vibe of things. I'm thinking, like the Cobains or the Eddie Vedders or, Chris Cornell's. You look more grunge than glam to me. I don't know, not to insult kind of thing, but yeah.
No, definitely not. No, it's interesting.
I could see you like, on the cover of some Alice in Chains album or something like that.
Fair enough.
So, but yeah, either way, both are cool. Like you just, I think it's the hair, dude. The hair's too cool. It's not, backcombed. It's not feathered. It's not, 80s-tastic.
See, the funny thing is, I actually hate the hair at the moment. I grew it out as like an experiment, as I've always wanted to see what I'd feel like with long hair, and I grew it out, and I loved it to begin with. And then over time, especially with wrestling, when it comes out and it gets all in your face, awful. So I was on about shaving it off and going back to how I used to have it. And then my Mrs. Lauren, she absolutely loves it up in the bun. So she said, no, until we get married, you've got to keep the long hair. I want the long hair for the pictures and everything. So then this was before I started building the character and whatnot. And I was like, right, okay, fine. You know, if you want it for the pictures, I'll keep it, and then I'll get rid of it as soon as the wedding's done and whatnot. And it's sort of now I'm growing back into it where I've got it to a length all round that's comfortable, and it's a lot better nowadays. But yeah, there was one point where I was just about to go short back and sides. Yeah, clean off.
Dude, no. That was a rookie mistake right there, dude. In the sense of like, you want 80s, you could have tidied it up at the top, you know, nice and business-like. And
Yeah.
just had it a toy in the back, man. You could have gone full mullet. And that would have been 80s. That would have been pure 80s rock.
I wanted a mullet at one point, and I was quickly shot down. So, you know, it's at the end of the day, it is my hair, but I don't make the decisions. You know how it is.
Yeah, I get it. There was a shout out. I was talking mullets again. I don't know how much everybody knows everybody and stuff like that as well. But there was a dude out there called Gung Ho Muttley, and he just rocks the best scene in many years. Went to True Grit on Saturday for the Rumble, and as soon as I walked in, like a member of staff walked past, and they had a glorious mullet, and I was like, "Yeah, that's Gung Ho Muttley." I don't even need to see the face; I just saw the hair, and I was like, "Yeah, Gung Ho." But again, like I said, I don't know the interactions because obviously I just think you've been at like Pursuit, but obviously I know you've got a show coming up with Super Pro Wrestling. So I know there's a lot of crossover with you guys. So I don't know if you've been on any shows when Muttley's been there, or you've been. I know obviously you're going to be working with young Horace, not in a match, but you know at Super Pro, I know Horace is there, and you're booked on. They're having a tournament. Are you involved in a tournament at
I
Super
am,
Pro?
yes. So I haven't worked with Muttley yet, unfortunately, but with Horace at the next show, which I'm going to get slated for this, but I can't remember whether it's the 21st or the 22nd because I've got two shows that weekend of February. But I am facing Horace in the tournament, so that should be a really fun match.
Well, yeah, I think definitely style-wise as well. Not anybody who's seen Horace, you know, mask, high flying, very quick, zip, zip, zip. And as I mentioned earlier, you know, you've kind of got that ground technical wizardry, really. So it's kind of going to be not a clash of styles. It's going to be an interesting mesh of styles. I would say.
Yeah, I like working with high flyers because it's very easy to once they get some momentum going and they get moving about and hit a few strikes, cutting it off is so much more fun with a high flyer because you can just pick them up and slam them down and take control really easy, and it's a lot of fun personally.
That tells the story as well. That is the story, isn't it? You know, they're
Absolutely.
constantly like ducking and diving. And that, yeah, the whole story is you trying to slow them down. As soon as you ground them, it's like, oh crap, and then the comeback starts, and then you stop it, and then it comes. It's just like the best. Again, I don't know people's how far back the wrestling goes or watching it and stuff, but you know, for me, this doesn't seem like an aged reference. But then I think about it, it's like, crap, this was probably like 20 odd years ago. But you know, like Rey Mysterio versus Kurt Angle, you know, those kind of matches. I'd have got that.
Yeah, I take a lot of inspiration and love from Kurt Angle. My favorite wrestler growing up. I just love the intensity from Kurt Angle. Everything about him was it was fantastic, and obviously technical work is what I love. Interesting enough, though, I wasn't actually into the technical side of wrestling when I first started. So I used to work in a trampoline park when I was younger. So controlling myself in the air and springs, it was natural to be a high flyer. I thought, oh, I'll jump up on the top rope and mess about. I hit a moonsault, a springboard moonsault in my first session, and everyone hated me, and it was an awesome feeling because I came in, I hit the springboard moonsault, and I think it was Ellis Barker. I was doing, you were trying something. I said, oh, let me have a try. So jumps on, hits it first time, and he just looked at me, and I could tell he hates me at this moment. But so I started doing the high flying stuff, and then at the start of every open session for PPW, Liam runs through a technical wrestling spot. And from when I started doing them, it was the movements and the fluidity of everything that was involved was just, to me, I loved it, especially with like sweeping movements and hooks and everything moving so coherently, and you've got to be like precise with all your movements. I just fell in love with it, and then obviously Liam, being a phenomenal technical wrestler, sort of took me under his wing then and sort of pushed me in this direction, and now I don't look back. I love it.
Dude, can you still hit the? Does it still feel natural to do the high spots if and when needed? That's the thing. To have that in your back pocket, it's kind of like. Ooh.
I
like when
sorry,
you take the moonsault, like when Angle used to hit the moves. Obviously, you never really ever landed it, but it looked good. But if you could be that guy and land them every now and again, it'd be like, oh damn.
Yeah, I do practice every so often at training sessions. I've got like moonsaults and 450s in my back pocket if I want to, you know, big moment in a match, you know, title opportunities come around, whatever, throw 450 in, see how it lands. But it's something that I really enjoy doing because the adrenaline that you get from throwing yourself off the top rope is really fun. But I like the grounded work because it's a lot safer and it's a lot easier to not mess up.
You're not gonna feel it as much the next day. I'd like to sort of say, you know, you're working smart, working hard, kind of thing, but working long, kind. You know, hopefully it doesn't take its toll on your body as much as the high flying stuff will eventually. I always say that. Then you look at somebody like Jeff Hardy, who's, you know, the fact he's not in a wheelchair is like, all right, maybe it's not all that bad. Maybe it's not all that bad. Maybe it's just a freak of nature. Who knows? But yeah, you also talk about Liam there. I mentioned the Rey Mysterio Kurt Angle thing because obviously I was watching some of your matches and stuff, and obviously I kind of picked up on the Angle aspect. So I was like, right, if we're going to say anything, it's got to be Rey and Angle because that's a good example. But as soon as you pulled, you know, like the Angle, as soon as you did the grapevine, I was like, there we go. You know, this is ankle lock. This is like, you know, this is Kurt Angle's ankle lock. As soon as that grapevine kicks in, match over.
Yeah. It's a nice thing to have in the matches. You start, if I get the ankle lock on, but it's not got anything attached to it, then it's, oh, well, is it going to happen? Is it not going to happen? And then seal the deal, get the ankle lock, all grapevined in. It's done set. And then if somebody manages to get to the ropes, then people will be surprised because you've built to always sort of end the match with the grapevine ankle lock.
That's it. Because I mean, again, prime example. Obviously, I knew you being an Angle fan, you know what I'm on about. But I can't remember. I think it was at WrestleMania. I want to say 21, when he had the match against Shawn Michaels, and he got the Angle lock on. It was like a 25-minute match or something, and then he grapevined, but it took like 5 minutes to tap out, and Shawn just wasn't having it. You know, he was going for the rope.
Yeah.
For that match, it was like, have they gone on too long? But no, you know, actually, you think about it, it's like, no, you know, it was perfect. But you're just like, as soon as he grapevined, just like, right, it's done. But then 5 minutes later, it's like, Sean's still fighting it.
Yeah.
Now it's done. It's like, fucking hell. But, you know, that 5 minutes just felt like a lifetime.
Oh,
as soon as he grapevined, match over. Like, no, not yet. Sean's not having it yet. Now he's had it. Right, okay. But, yeah, it's just crazy. That's like one of the most underrated WrestleMania matches. Nobody really talks about that, but that to me is one of Michael's and Angle's best matches.
Yeah, well, I agree with you there because if you hadn't mentioned it, I'd have probably forgotten about it. But then when you actually remember it, it is a really good match.
So, but like I say, you learned it from one of the best. You mentioned Mr. Slater. I'd just like to obviously point out, you know, work the left side, male wrestler of 2024, Mr. Liam Slater. The dude's just pure. He's pure wrestling. I mean, you mentioned that kind of style. The thing is, though, it's like it's so not decisive. It's indecisive. I can't think of the word, but it splits people basically. It's not my mic because it's not a 50-50 split, but it does. You either love it and you love it with a passion, or you just kind of switch off. You kind of can't get into it. But I'm the same as you. You know, if I see a pure rules match at True Grit, you know, I'm there. You know, I'm more invested in that than I am a lot of the other stuff because it's just human chess. Like I said, you sat there and you're watching it move. You're watching the transitions. You're watching the body, you know, just move around, and trying to counter each other, and the leverage and the weight. But I know my man Ash on Instagram, who works, does work the left side on Insta. He loves those matches. You know what I mean? He could sit there and watch Zack Sabre Jr. for freaking hours. He could sit there and watch all of Zach's matches and just be like. Same with Liam. As soon as we get a pure grit match at True Grit, I don't know. I'm not even going to talk to the guy for like 20 minutes. I'm just like, no, you what?
Yeah, Pure Rules is one of my favourite stipulations. It's just everything about it. The rope breaks and the psychology that's within the rope breaks. I can't remember who did it now. There was a point where all 3 rope breaks have been used, and gets the submission on. They go for the ropes, and the referee's no, he can't get it. So he pulls himself out of the ring, and like the guy who's got the hold on hits himself on the bottom rope, breaks the hold, and it's all those little bits that you wouldn't get in a normal match that is just special to Pure Rules matches. And I'd love to do a Pure Rules match one time, hopefully with Liam. I think a Pure Rules match with Liam would be bucket list sort of thing to do.
And that's got to be one that's on there kind of thing. And it's like again, storylines already written, student, teacher, mentor, pass the torch, I'm better than you, but all that kind of sort of stuff. It's all there. It doesn't have to be sold. And I think, I'd like to see that at Pursuit. I don't know what we're on now. Pursuit 30, Pursuit 31 was the last. I want to say 30. So
yeah, I think 32 is the next one, if I'm not mistaken.
Like Pursuit 35, I want to see that match. I'm going to put it out there. I'm going to put it into the universe.
Love that. I'd like to see that match as well.
Yes, that's. But again, it's just that style. But it's being able to do that sort of stuff, but then having the character to fall back on. I don't know, man. It amazes me sometimes. Like especially either there's a very few people that have got that straight down the middle where they've got the character and the technical side. It's normally one or the other. It's more biased towards one. So I think again, just to hype you up, I think you're on the right path where you kind of got that perfect split between character and technical wrestling.
Oh, thank you. Appreciate that.
I don't know. I'm not explaining it overall, but you know what I mean. Hopefully, you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Like, the worker who can't tell a story, you don't have the psychology. You can have an amazing match, but you don't get the psychology side of it, or you don't get the character work, or you're not just pure character who does a body slam and expects a pop and that's it. That's your whole match kind of thing. You've got that perfect blend of character, technical ability.
Well, when I first started training, I was focusing so much on what was happening in the ring that you forget to think about the psychology of the match. And then I did a few session takeovers with different people, focusing on psychology of matches and whatnot. And it sort of opens your eyes to that is the importance of the wrestling, is the psychology behind it. So once I started working more towards that and thinking about characters and whatnot, that's where I've sort of drifted from one side to sort of do a blend of the two, because I love the technical work and I want my technical work to shine because it's the stuff that I do. But I also want the character to come across and the psychology to come into the match and not just be two guys throwing 50,000 forearms at each other sort of thing. So
yeah, make it matter, make it mean something.
Definitely.
I've always said, the psychology side of things is, the part I would imagine I would just struggle. Well, to be fair, I'd struggle with the character because I'm very much like you. I'd be like, me turned up to 11 is still kind of just, I don't know, I could sit in there and talk people to death about films or wrestling or something. That would be my character. Like freaking the film nerd. I don't know. I'd come out every match is a different film character or something. I don't know. But, that's the part where I'll just be like, yeah. But the psychology, I think, it's got to be the hardest thing to kind of get because it's different and it depends on the audience as well. It's basically building up that confidence to be able to change what you're doing depending on how the audience reacts.
Yeah. I think
if the audience I was going to say, you kind of know what you're doing. You've got this story you want to tell, but if the audience aren't buying into it, you need to be able to pick up on that. And, you can kind of change it as of when needed.
Yeah, definitely. When I first obviously started doing matches for Pursuit, you're with the same crowd. You know what they expect, and you come and you wrestle, and they're there to watch a wrestling show. And then I started getting bookings in Barnsley, and I'd go and wrestle in front of a different crowd, and all of a sudden there's a load of young kids there that are cheering, and then you've got to sort of think about how to get these kids on board to watch the match. Because if I'm going to do a 20-minute technical wrestling match, the kids in the front row are going to be bored. They're going to, I'll be asking to go to the toilet, and they're not going to care. At the end of the day, we wrestle for the crowd, not for what we want to do. So then you've got to switch everything up, and you've got to think how your character could interact with the kids in the front row to get them involved, and it completely changes the way you wrestle.
Yeah. I mean, that's the perfect example. Like I said, you're training, especially with the technical side of things. Obviously, you're kind of training or you're working for a more smart audience, a more, like I said, people who appreciate like the pure style, the technical style. But yeah, when you're in front of kids, you've kind of got to ham it up. And again, I think it's something, Kurt Angle did amazingly. The dude was like one of the best ever, but the dude had comedy chops. I mean, you could put a little cowboy hat on him, give him a little guitar. I might be wrong here, but I always credit Angle with creating the chair rope face spot. He was the first person I ever saw do it. So he always knew when to change lane, kind of thing, from just being technical, from being a wrestler to being an entertainer.
Yeah, it's a very difficult line to sort of toe when you first start out, but then as you sort of gain experience and go in front of different crowds, it's something that I won't say comes more naturally, but you sort of get used to, and then it becomes easier to then, I'm going to this promotion, they've got a lot of kids in the crowd, I'll wrestle this way, and then I'm going over here, there's a lot of guys who are watching exactly every move that I do and commenting on it. So I'm going to make sure everything's sharp and crisp and focus on the actual in-ring work.
I mean, I'm saying this like, you've been around for 5 or 6 years. I kind of keep forgetting, like you say, you still open doors. I'm talking about, having the confidence to change things up in the ring, read the psychology, read the feeling of the room. I'm talking to you like I've talked to people that have been around for 10 years. I kind of, after watching, like I said, you just seem to have picked it up really quick. Like your level is higher than I would think it would be for a couple of years into the journey, kind of thing. So apologies, I'm kind of talking like the psychology side of stuff. I talk to people that have been around for freaking years and years and years and years and years, and they're still like, I don't quite get it, or I'm not quite sort of. I don't think you ever stop learning, but you kind of obviously you get to a part where you sort of feel comfortable.
Yeah, with my training journey, I turn everything up to 11 when I do things. So if I'm learning something new, I obsess over it. And usually that ends up being like with guitar, for example. I'll play guitar for about a month, and I'll learn a few new songs, and I'll be really enjoying it, and then I'll drop it at a hat. But like wrestling has become an obsession for me, which the Mrs. Lauren is not too happy about sometimes, because I'll just be sat thinking about different parts of wrestling while we're watching a TV show or whatever. And it really has become an obsession for me, to a sense of that every day I'm thinking of new ideas, and I'm trying to work out, and I might not always be, working physically, but I'm always with a bit of paper and working out new ideas. And it's good for me being an obsession, because when you're always working at something, it sort of comes to you a lot quicker and a lot more naturally. So yeah, I've really enjoyed it. So every step of the journey has been awesome, and I can't see myself stopping.
Yes, I see. So that's another question as well that obviously sort of comes up, because again, everybody's different, kind of thing. I always like to sort of say though, now you're on this journey, now you're on the ladder, now you're actually doing this thing. Are you able to switch off? Are you still able to watch it as a fan, or do you kind of just find? I think you've just kind of answered it though, where are you just kind of sat there watching it, just mentally taking notes all the time, or it must take like an amazing, forget a 5-star match, it'll be like a 10-star match for you to just fanboy, just stop overthinking it and just enjoy.
See, about a couple months into my wrestling journey, every single wrestling match that I'd watch, I'd pick apart and I'd analyze, and I'd sit there for about an hour just pausing and writing notes and doing all this. I did, I can't remember when it was, but I did a session takeover at PPW with Brendan White, and it was, he said something that really opened my eyes, and we're doing like little, bits of work in the ring, everybody around the outside, and he goes, right, everybody around the outside, get involved, make some noise, get excited. And he's like, the biggest issue with wrestling these days is nobody enjoys it anymore. They sit there and they just go, this were rubbish, they messed up this, botch gets thrown around all the time. Everybody's just, this were bad, this wrestler's rubbish. Nobody sits and just enjoys wrestling anymore. And I sat there and I was just like, yeah, you are absolutely right. So I went home that night and I just put on one of my favourite matches of all time. And I just sat there and I just watched it. I didn't have a pen and paper. I didn't have nothing. And my eyes were glued to the screen. When the finish the match came, I was like, yeah, right, excited. I haven't had that feeling in wrestling since I started training. So even though nowadays I do still pull apart matches and whatnot, there will be times where I'll just go, right, I'm just going to sit down and watch it and enjoy it.
Nice. That's good to hear, because I love that mindset. I love that mindset of just hopefully anybody who follows us on socials knows me. I will never talk about wrestling in a negative manner. I will never talk about a match I didn't like. I will never talk about a show I didn't like. I will always talk about shows that I like. I will always talk about matches I like. I will always talk about talent I like. If I want to talk about something, I want to be talking about something that I like. I don't want to waste my time talking about shit I don't like. What's the point?
It only makes you feel bad as well. Like you spend time spreading negativity, you only make yourself feel negative.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's like I love this shit. So I want to talk about it. I want to get other people hyped for it. If I'm talking down about stuff, I could turn potential fans off from wrestling. These people are like, oh, he's shitting all over it. Why the fuck do I want to watch it? I'm like, no, mate, you want to watch it? Fucking awesome. The stories that get told, the talent, the training, the abilities, the skill. Man, this shit is next level. Hype that stuff up. So, What was the match? What was the match, by the way?
Favorite match of all time. So it's Kurt Angle versus Brock Lesnar 60-minute Iron Man match. It's the one on SmackDown, random SmackDown in 2002. It is an awesome match, packed with psychology, just great in-ring work, and the finish is brilliant.
Yes. Again, two of the very best to ever lace up the boots. That's the thing that always kind of makes me smile, because everybody kind of talks about, WrestleMania 19, their match, obviously that ending, that the shooting star threat, that Iron Man match. Again, it's like a hidden gem, because it happened on a SmackDown. Yeah. A lot of people tend to about it. It's like, oh shit, obviously like Shawn Michaels and John Cena had this amazing 1 hour match on Raw, a few years later kind of thing. Because it's not on a pay-per-view, very few people kind of remember it. I was just like,
it was one thing that always stuck with me with that match was when Lesnar, I think they're level pegging, and Lesnar gets out the steel chair and he just starts wailing on Kurt with it, obviously an illegal move. So the referee deducts him gives Kurt a point. So he's like, oh, no, damn, what a shame. Keeps hitting him with his chair. Bell goes again. Pins him straight away. 1, 2, 3. Back level pegging, and Kurt's laid up floor, just absolutely blistered with chair shots. All up in there. Absolutely love it.
So good. But yeah, I just think, those two guys very rarely ever put a foot wrong. When they were together, it was always kind of gold. One of my go-to ones is, it's amazing how many people have Kurt Angle matches as like go-to ones. Obviously, I mentioned the Shawn Michaels. His match against Shano is like a massive, I hate watching it because it makes me just physically feel nauseous at times. But and again, I don't know if it's a bloodlust in me or, just something, some sort of gnarliness, this Darkness, my old friend. It's like, right, let's put the Shane O'Mac Kurt Angle street fight on and quench this desire for destruction.
It's an awesome match.
Oh, dude, it's just, and it hasn't aged. You can still watch it now, and you could put it up against any match, and just like, it's still just horrific. But you know, it just, it just shivers. But right, we're talking Angle. So we're talking obviously WWE Kurt Angle. I just kind of want to stick on Angle for a minute because I want to. Did you watch TNA obviously as well? Because I know a lot of people kind of watched. More people in the UK watched TNA because it was free, kind of thing. It was on Bravo, or didn't have to pay for Sky Sports. So it's amazing how many people I talked to of a certain age that were getting into wrestling, and they were more TNA sort of fans.
Yeah,
because it was free basically.
See, when I was growing up, around that time, it was only WWE I watched. I watched it with my dad. We just sat and watched WWE. I'd never really watched TNA or anything else growing up. It was only until I got into like my later teens that I started talking about wrestling with my friends and like, oh, do you not watch TNA back in the day? And I'm like, no, why? And then that's when I went back and started watching it all. And to be fair, watching it back as an older person was nicer because I could, pull it apart and understand it a lot more. But yeah, I didn't watch TNA when I was younger. It was only until I got older.
It was just the Kurt Angle Samoa Joe series of matches, really. That was kind of
absolutely brilliant.
Just gonna say, if you haven't watched them for any reason, if they've got to be checked out, kind of thing. Especially that cage match, the MMA quality of the cage match.
Yes.
Working, working snug, working tight. Just the technical side of it, it was just beautiful, basically. Then so we're talking. I'd say, well, let's get back to obviously you. Let's get Kurt Angle. He's had his day. Bar humbug. Talk, Mr. Andrews. Obviously, we talked, Super Pro, the Ruggy Rumble. So again, man, that's obviously, like I said, you're getting to work Scotland, which is a big deal for a lot of people, in the journey, because Scottish fans are freaking awesome. They're freaking mental, but they're awesome, man. I don't know if you've been up there as a fan. Have you got to witness like just what the energy is like up there, or is it just going to be straight in at the deep end? It's the Scottish fans. You're in a rumble as well, so it's going to be electric.
Absolutely. Enjoy. Yeah. So I've never been up to Scotland before, ever in my life. I've never been up to Scotland, so it's going to be a completely new experience for me. But I've spoken to a few people that obviously work at the show and go and visit. And they said the Scottish fans will absolutely hate me, so I can't wait for that. Absolutely cannot wait for that, because for a fact I'm just gonna lean straight into that, and I'm gonna take so much joy out of that. But I'm incredibly excited for it because there's nothing better than a hot crowd at a wrestling match. So
dude, I'm excited for you because I just know what it's just going to be like, because those guys are crazy up there, but they love it. They're so passionate about it, kind of thing. That kind of comes. But that's Scotland. That's something you can tick off straight away. Working at Pursuit, training at Pursuit though. The I can't think of the words. The possibilities of you getting to work somewhere like Mexico or Spain or Italy or stuff is quite high, because obviously those guys have built so many great relationships with other schools in other countries. Is there anywhere? If Pursuit came to you, if Liam or Nathan came and sort of said, "Oh, we're having a show in, I don't know, freaking Germany," is there any location where you would, I don't know, fight Kemper just to get on that goddamn plane?
See, you'd hit the nail on the head there. That was Germany. It's one place I've always wanted to wrestle. I've said that the German crowd's great. The people that wrestle there are awesome. One place I do want to wrestle and eventually want to move full time out there is America, but we'll see if Pursuit makes some American friends and go out there sometime.
Well, like I said, man, that's the thing with Pursuit. They're building relationships all over the shop. And obviously Chris Masters came over several months ago, took a session, and it's just more and more people seem to be taking note of what they're doing, and they are becoming like a worldwide school. You know what Nathan's done with the social media is freaking mental. You look at like the reels on Instagram. It must be crazy as well for you guys being there, knowing like if you're on a reel,
Yeah,
there's there's billions of eyes are going to see you.
it's one thing that I've always disliked his social media, but you cannot take it away from Nathan. He knows exactly what he's doing with that stuff. And it's phenomenal. Like the amount of views some of the stuff gets is phenomenal. I did a bit of a wrestling spot with Alfie, and on Facebook, I think it got 1.5 million views, which to me is incredible because 14 months ago I was just thinking about becoming a pro wrestler, and now I've got 1.5 million people viewing me wrestling. It's a real moment where you think to yourself, is this really happening, sort of thing. On one hand, it's like you have that sort of should it be happening to me kind of thing, but on the other hand, you're like, yeah, I'm really enjoying it. I want this. This is what I've always dreamed of, and now it's happening. It's almost like a wow that you actually, if you try to do what you want to do in life, it does actually come to you.
Yeah.
And it's just
Obviously.
Sorry, go on.
With hard work, you have to. You've put the hours in, you've put the effort in as well, kind of thing.
Yeah, I used to train a lot more than I do now. I'm focusing a lot on relationships at the moment, but I'm down 2-3 times a week at Pursuit. I'm watching matches after sessions. I'm coming home. I'm days off. I'm watching wrestling. I'm always involved with wrestling, so I'm constantly working, and I just want to get better and better, and hopefully then people can start seeing the work that I'm putting in and give me a shot, and then I can start working for different people, and then start building what I want to get to, and then hopefully one day look back and be like, wow, I've actually done what I wanted to do.
Dude, but like you sort of said, 1.5 million views. Put that into like perspective for you, dude. That's more people than watch AEW.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's absolutely crazy.
By AEW, we're talking Chris Jericho, we're talking Will Ospreay, we're talking Swerve, we're talking Daniel Bryan, we're talking John Moxley. You know what I mean? More people have watched something you've done.
Yeah.
Than an episode of Dynamite. It's ridiculous, crazy.
It's phenomenal. It doesn't sink in sometimes until you think about it. And then when you think about it, you sort of get butterflies a little bit, like, oh my, I can't believe this is happening. You get really giddy. It's absolutely incredible. Like the stuff that Nathan does with the social media, even though at times, he's on it constantly. Do this, more reels. It's an ongoing joke. But what he does for everyone that on social media is phenomenal. You can't thank him enough for what he does.
And that's again, anybody knows me, knows the channel, knows my love for Pursuit, for PPW, what they do. There's so many great schools in this country, like House of Pain, Future Shock, to Temple, but it's no besmirchment to say for me Pursuit is the best of the best. It's the highest kind of thing because of not because of the people that are coming through it. Obviously that helps, but the relationships they're building up around the world, like so I said, the social media side of things, they're untouchable.
Yeah.
So it's just for me, anybody who's looking to get into wrestling, if they can get to Pursuit, it's just a simple choice.
Absolutely. And even if you're in wrestling and you've never been to Pursuit, it's so worth coming down. I've always said that I want to start going up and down the UK now and trying out different schools. But I always find myself coming back home. It's a comfort zone for me. It's where I train. It's the people that I love. But it's such a wonderful place to train. Like the people that you work with, phenomenal people. Everybody's there to help you. They're all so polite, and Nathan and Liam are awesome. They're such a wealth of knowledge for wrestling. It's always nice to come down.
See, if the Elias character hadn't been done, that for me, that was you all over. I can imagine you like a tour of the UK, kind of like just like walking, like being the drifter with the guitar over the shoulder. Go to different schools. You know, I'm legitimately pissed at Elias now for freaking stealing that like 70s too early thing. That should have been yours.
There's so many times where I've been thinking about character in my early career where I'm like, oh, this quite suits me, and then people will go, oh, just like this person. You're like, oh, somebody's always got there first.
It's like the again, I don't know if you've there's an episode of South Park where they're trying to do something and they're just like, Simpsons did it. Oh, right. Simpsons did it. Fuck. What about this? Simpsons did it, and they're just like, ah. Yeah, it's impossible to try and think of anything new in this day and age, kind of thing. All you could try and do is kind of tweak it a little bit, or sort of I don't know, find something that's so obscure nobody's heard of. You can be like, yes, right. It's not new, it's not original, but it's obscure and nobody knows it but me, so it's mine. I'm having it.
Until you find out somebody else is already doing it. 2 years down the line, no.
It's like, yeah, it's just, especially in wrestling, man, it's so hard to come up with something that hasn't been done before. I think that's why I've got so much love for Orange Cassidy, because I think that character is just, I mean, I might get shot in the comments, it might be somebody like him 10 years ago that I've never heard of. Mm-hmm. But for me, yeah, Orange Cassidy was just totally original. It's something I've never seen before, hands in the pockets, that sort of just that vibe. I was like, that's an amazing character and it's original. And how often do you get to say that nowadays?
Yeah, it was funny stories. Orange Cassidy was the reason I had like a bit of a break for wrestling, where I sort of lost a bit of interest around 2020 sort of time. Orange Cassidy was what got me back into wrestling. I saw footage of Orange Cassidy with the hands in the pockets and the shades and the drop kick. I just loved it. I was like, who's this guy? And then I went back and watched watched all the stuff on the indies and whatnot, and then found AEW and started watching that, and then I got back into wrestling through AEW and started really getting back into it then.
Nice. Yeah, I love Cassidy again. I was a massive, I credit AEW with getting me back into wrestling several years ago, kind of thing. When that came, I'd kind of burnt out. I wasn't watching WWE. I wasn't watching any wrestling at that point, except for some, British stuff. NXT had kind of declined. It was a bit of a lull. And then, AEW turned up. Orange Cassidy versus Pac. I was just like, boom. It's amazing. So yeah, anybody who comes up with anything new or original, I've just got to salute them, because it's just. But yeah, again, when I'm talking to people about, that's why I sort of said, you kind of got to try and pull inspiration from, like films or obscure TV shows or, music videos, things that, are so cliche or so cult-like. You've kind of got to be like, nobody else is going to know this. But then if nobody else knows it, is anybody else going to get it? Bollocks. I don't envy you, man, at all. It's so tricky.
Yeah, it's one of those things where at the moment I'm sort of like at ends with character work, where I'm like, oh, is this really working for me? Is this how I want to go? But then you think about it and you're like, oh, well, what else could I do? And then you can't think, and then you're like, well, this is like me than say this other idea is. So, and I'm sort of like now getting back into the groove of liking where I'm at in terms of character. So
that's it. Obviously, I mentioned Elias. Obviously, you had Rick Bogues or however you want to sort of say his name in NXT. But again, that was like 80s. Just don't go the much. You said 80s, and like I say, I'm still seeing the grunge, because I just, until you get like the feathered hair or the handlebar mustache.
Yeah.
Not seeing 80s glam, which is a good thing. I don't want to see you coming out with like leopard print fucking.
Oh, don't worry, I can't grow anything here anyways, so. It's been a real struggle. I've got such thick hair up here, but nothing down here. It's such a letdown.
Put it out, strip it on, just like. But yeah, that's it. Just tie it up. Just tape it on, man. Super close on it. The things you do. But yeah, it's still, like I sort of said, Jeff Jarrett, Elias, Boogs, whatever you want to call him. Honky Tonk Man to a push. You know what I mean? There's but Music Man's got that side of sort of covered. I think there's still enough scope where there's enough individuality where you can kind of, it's you're not being somebody else, kind of thing. It's just like say, it's finding that what clicks and what makes you feel happy, because you've got to be happy doing it. You've got to be comfortable doing it.
Yeah, definitely. The idea of the character was I wanted to have this sort of personality that was, myself turned up to 11 kind of thing, but then add my own sort of twist on it, whereas I was trying to work into the technical side of it, into so like early ideas I had was like for like a bow and arrow stretch, for example, calling it like the string bend and stuff like that, and adding all stuff like that in. And it's still very much a work in progress, but yeah, just trying to weave my own sort of individuality into this sort of like rock star character just to make it my own. But it's very difficult.
Yeah, man, it's true. Oh, quick shout out as well. I freaking saw again talking about reels, and it started off looking like a freaking swinging net breaker that ended up being a freaking Canadian destroyer or a spinning Canadian. It was just like, the fuck. I think about naming moves. You just mentioned it, and also I think it came up at the bottom. Name this move. I was just like, no, I can't even fucking name that move. That move is just unreal. Like, you're going from a swinging net breaker into a freaking rotating Canadian destroyer or something, man. That's mental.
I hated that move. It was one of those things where it was a quiet session down at PPW, and we were just like spitballing ideas and whatnot. And it was one way or another we came to this move, and Liam was like, "Do you reckon you could hit it?" I said, "Well, I've never hit a Canadian destroyer before, so it's like swinging into Canadian, like no idea I'm going to do it." He says, "Oh well, I think we can get it if we work it together." And it was middle of the summer. It was red hot, like 30 plus degrees, sweating head to toe, and we must have done it about 30 times. And I just every time just couldn't get it right. There was something wrong, and like footstep would go wrong one way or whatever. And by the end of it, I was drenched in sweat, and I was like, I'm glad I don't use this move on a regular basis. This is awful.
One and done.
Yeah.
Not having it. No, not 130 and done. But that's it. One time on camera, one time captured. Never using this move again. Not happening. Mate, I was like, you cannot do that on a regular basis. That is ridiculous. That's like sort of said, having something in your back pocket, to pull out if needs be. But Jesus, still, I'm like, no, mate, it's not happening. Just give me the ankle lock. Yeah, I'll finish it with the ankle lock.
So much easier. Just grab hold of the ankle, lie down, job done. Happy days.
All you've got to worry about is just crossing your legs. That's it.
That's it.
Like, oh no, well wait, oh that's fine. Yeah, done. Dude. But yeah, if I ever see that move again, mate, I will absolutely pop huge. But I never expect to see it. I never want to see it, because I would never want to put you through that. I would never want you to be like, it's gone. Get rid of it. Don't ever think about it again.
Never know. Next time you're in crowd, I might have to pull it out at back. Just to get that pop. I'm like, oh, is it front row? Let's go. Whoa!
Mate, I'll be sat there in tears. Just like, no, he did it. I feel responsible now. I made him do it.
So will I, after it brings back all the trauma.
PTSD. I'll be like, no. Sat in the corner.
Hit the move.
Dude, just got the time. It's been obviously, thank you so much for coming on and talking. It's been amazing. I know we kind of talk socials. I think neither of us are really a fan, but we kind of know we have to use them for purposes. But yeah, let people know where they can hit you up on Insta.
So it is at Callum Andrews _PW. Probably best of him to spell it out, isn't it?
Oh, we'll link on here anyway.
Fair enough. Yeah.
It's more of a generic question. Obviously, when this gets uploaded and we post on socials, we'll obviously tag you in stuff anyway. Yeah. So if you're not following Callum, please click and give him a follow. Keep your eyes open. If you're able to get to the Super Pro show, go watch him and Horace do their thing. Obviously, if you're a Scottish audience member and you can get to the Ruggy Rumble, and go give him some shit. And let him feel that electricity and just
absolutely.
Fucking Englishman, get out.
I'll be eating that up.
But yeah, obviously, give Callum a follow, give Pursuit a follow, check out what they're doing. Keep your eyes peeled, because obviously I think we're going to be seeing this man on various more shows over the rest of the year. Obviously, I will always try and hype them up and let you know as of whenever Callum is booked. I'd love to see somewhere like True Grit or Tidal, take a chance, get that pure style in there. I think there's always room for sort of a technical wizardry on shows. So, especially at True Grit, seeing as they do the True Grit, Pure Grit League kind of thing. Once this season's over and they sort of start a new league, good. I'd like to shout out. I think Callum would be a good addition to the table.
I appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Right. And I know obviously Tidal do the open challenges and stuff. Love to see how HT Drake handles a bit of technical wizardry. He's pretty good at what he does. I'm sure he'd be on par. Or you could show him a few things though.
We'll see. Definitely love to see that.
But yeah, again, just put stuff out there, put it into the universe, see if it manifests, see what happens. Obviously, as always, thank you for watching. Hit like, subscribe, share, comment, all the generic stuff I ask you to do at the end of every episode. Just keep your eyes peeled. We've got some awesome stuff coming up. We've got Ruggy Rumble, myself, Bobby Cash, DJ King, cracking on watching the Rumbles. We've got Troy Ryan coming up soon. And yeah, just more and more people. Aiden Sparks is coming back soon as well. He says he's got some shows he wants to talk about, so we'll bring him back on. It's going to get fiery. So yeah, that's it really. Keep your eyes peeled. Thank you for watching. Callum, dude, thank you so much for coming on and talking to us.
No, thank you for having me. It's been awesome. Been a really good chat.
Awesome. Right, remember, always work the left side, and we'll see you again very soon. Goodbye.
See you later.